Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the UFL DFS video for week number 7. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my UFL DFS sheet for week number 7, talking through all the relevant players, whether or not I would consider them a GPP option, a cash game option, a GPP paydown or dart throw option, and then kind of going from there. And if there's any other notable news from this week, obviously there's been a lot of transactions. I will try to highlight them as well. There's a couple players that signed this week that have a chance of playing that technically don't have a price tag at this point in time. Definitely feel free to monitor this sheet throughout the week as we do get closer to lock, and I'll have all those updates there, as well as the inactives listed down in the comment section of this video. But without further ado, we're going to get started with the Birmingham Stallions. Obviously, the quarterback position has been one that's been really banged up for them so far this season. Case Cookis will be the starter once again this week, $9,300 GPP option. Behind him, we have Andrew Peasley, who missed practice on Wednesday due to a knee injury. They did sign Jalen Morton this week. Obviously, they signed Jamar Smith back last week, so a little bit of depth there at that quarterback position. All those guys do have familiarity with the system as well. And then we're going to move down to the running back position. If you really want to go to CJ Maribel or Ricky Person Jr., both could be viable GPP options, but they haven't really done too much this season, so I'm just going to lean off them at this point in time. In terms of the wide receivers, we'll get down to Deon Cain, $7,900, strong GPP option. Once again, he's kind of been that main guy for them once again this season. If you want to play Marlon Williams at $5,400, you could definitely do that as well. Obviously, Amari Rodgers had the big touchdown last week, the long touchdown, which was kind of a broken play, but I'm not really too interested in getting to him this week overall. Cade Johnson at $3,300, I think could be a very interesting paydown option as he's getting a little bit more run in the offense once again. And then we move down to tight end with Jay Sternberger. He's $4,100. He did score that touchdown last week, so pay down option if you want to go there. And he's typically a guy that does his best performances later on this season, which is pretty much where we're at this point in time. Then we're going to move down to that Stallions defense, $4,500 going against the Houston Roughnecks, and it looks like a pretty attractive matchup overall, so would consider them a strong GPP option just in general. Then on the opposite end of that game, we have Jalen McClendon at quarterback, $9,100 GPP option if he is the starter once again. Nolan Henderson was limited in practice on Wednesday due to his shoulder once again, but he was moved to the active list. It's kind of interesting this week, all the third quarterbacks are listed as active for these teams at this point in time. So just keep an eye out on that as the week moves along. At the running back position, we have Kirk Merritt at $6,100. He did not practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury. Zaquandre right here is at $7,700. I'm going to just add him as a viable GPP option. He's been doing pretty well as of late, so if Kirk Merritt's out once again, we do have some interest in him. Then in terms of the wide receivers, mainly just interested in Justin Hall and Lawrence Keys. So Justin Hall, the pay-up option at $9,000. Lawrence Keys, the pay-down option at $3,200. If you really want to play somebody else, you can definitely do it, but not too interested in the rest of these guys. Marcus Sims did not practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury. Probably going to be out for this week overall. They did have a little bit of news this week as they did cut Reggie Roberson and signed Cyril Grayson back to the team, and then they also added Cam Sutton as kind of another tight end option for them. Jaquarius Spivey was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury, so that's probably part of the reason they brought in Cam Sutton just in general. The Houston Roughnecks defense, $3,500, viable paydown option there just in general. Roughnecks defense has had some flashes at times this season. Going against the Stallions, if they can get some pressure on Case Cookis, could be an all right day for them overall. Then we're going to move down to the Memphis Showboats, so it is expected Dresser Wynn will get the start once again. If you really want to roll them out there, you can. I'm just not that interested at $9,000. Wes Hills joined the team last week and actually led this running back room in terms of snaps, so definitely do like him as a viable GPP option this week overall. In terms of the wide receivers, probably going to be interested in Jonathan Adams, David Davis, if he is active, and Kwame Lassiter, all kind of viable GPP options. Lassiter was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a knee injury. Anybody else in this wide receiver room, not too interested in. If one of those top 3 guys is out, then maybe we get to a little bit of Isaiah Washington as kind of a dart throw, but not really getting there too much myself personally. In terms of that Showboats defense, $3,700. Maybe a paydown option there going against St. Louis Battlehawks. Max Dugan at quarterback hasn't been the greatest, but they're really leaning on that run game. If they can stop the run, could be a decent performance for them overall. Moving down to the Michigan Panthers, we have Bryce Perkins at quarterback. He's been electric so far this season. Probably the best performance of his season came last week, $10,300. Very viable cash game option there. And then in terms of the running backs, if you want to go to Nate McCreary or Toa Tua, you can definitely do that as well. Kind of GPP options on both. Tua's actually played really well as of late, and $7,800, definitely a climbing price tag for him just in general. The two main wide receivers are going to be the two viable GPP guys for me. Once again, Siosay Mariner and Malik Turner. Those are kind of the guys that have led the way as of late. If you really want to get down to one of those pay down tight ends, you could definitely do that, whether it's Cole Hukatini, Gunnar Oaks, Jalen Watermeyer, if you really want to get there, or if one of those two guys miss ahead of him. Both are dealing with a shoulder injury at this point in time. Hukatini was limited in practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Oaks didn't practice on Tuesday, but was limited on Wednesday as well. And then for that Michigan Panthers defense, $4,000 going against the Arlington Renegades. I'm just not really getting there this week overall. Then on the opposite side of that game, we have Luis Perez at quarterback, $9,200. I have him listed as kind of a GPP option, kind of with a question mark. Could be an interesting leverage play if he goes out there and plays pretty well. The big news for them this week is that Kalen Ballage was moved to the inactive list and that they did sign Tony Jones Jr. to the team. We'll see what impact that has on this running back room this week overall. So right now I just have Day Hunter, $6,200 listed as a GPP option. If you really want to take a shot on like Davion Smith at $5,000, that's kind of like a pay down option. You could do that. If Tony Jones Jr. gets some run, if he gets a price tag, you could maybe play him at the same time as well. And then in terms of the wide receivers, I'm mainly just looking at Isaiah Winstead here at $7,100. If you want to play Deontay Burnett, Tyler Vaughns, or Javonta Payton, you can definitely do that at the same time as well. And then Sal Cannell at tight end, $7,600, a viable GPP option as always. And then we move down to that Renegades defense, $3,900 going against Michigan Panthers. It's just not a matchup that I'm trying to get to this week overall, so they're not a team that I am playing once again on defense as well. Then we move down to the DC defenders. We got Jordan Ta'amu at quarterback, who's been playing really, really well as of late and throwing the ball a ton, which is kind of weird for this offense that was so run heavy in recent years that has flipped the script to being a more pass heavy offense. So he is a viable cash game option as well. Probably would be my second cash game quarterback behind Bryce Perkins this week overall, though. In terms of that running back room, not really interested in getting Abram Smith. He hasn't done much as of late, but if you want to take a shot on Deion Jackson at $5,800, you can definitely do that. Wide receiver room remains relatively the same. Chris Rowland's kind of that lead guy, $8,700, a viable cash game option. Braylon Sanders behind him has kind of stepped up as that $7,200 GPP option. A very interesting guy if you want to stack both Chris Rowland and Braylon Sanders with Jordan Ta'amu this week. Definitely does make a lot of sense. And then Cornell Powell is the third one, $5,700. Was a little bit banged up last week, didn't play a ton of snaps, but a viable GPP option once again. And then we did get the news that Josh Matthews is going to be inactive for week number 7, as well as Darius Higgins, who I don't have listed there on the sheet at this point in time. I will definitely be updating that later tonight, though. And then we move down to that DC Defenders defense. They are a viable cash game option going against San Antonio Brahmas, who have really struggled offensively and are really banged up at this point in time. And then we move down to the Brahmas team. We got Kevin Hogan starting at quarterback once again, $8,800. GPP option if you really want to go there. He does have a little bit of scrambling ability, but this offense has not been good whatsoever as of late. Jaysean Corbin should be the main running back with Anthony McFarland inactive for week number 7. So he's a viable GPP option if you really want to go there. And then Aiden Robbins is kind of that pay down option at the same time as well. And then in terms of the wide receivers, we're really looking at Marquez Stevenson, Justin Smith, and Rashawn Henry. Those were the 3 guys that got the most snaps last week. All 3 are interesting pay down options. I'm not sure that I'd be going out of my way to play any one of them, but you can definitely get there to some exposure of each if you're playing multiple lineups. Keep an eye on Kirkland. He's active, but he's not listed as a starter at this point in time. He's playing through injury at the same time as well. And then Matthew Sexton, Greg Ward, and Jacob Harris are all inactive this week. And they did trade for D. Anderson, who's $4,600. Probably not going to get a lot of run week 1 with the team, but could see some action moving down the line. And, maybe with that being said, if you really want to get to like Steven Stellanos for them, who played a ton of snaps for them last week at tight end, maybe that's a viable pay down option at the same time as well. In terms of that Brahmas defense, $3,600. Going against the DC defenders, who have been really good on offense as of late, that's not really a shot that I'm willing to take at this point in time. And then we move down to the St. Louis Battlehawks. We got Max Dugan at quarterback, $9,700 GPP option. Been more involved with his legs than anything at this point in time, but not a guy that I'm getting a ton of exposure to. Don't really love that price tag for the volume that he puts out, especially in the passing department. And then we move down to running back. So we have Jacob Sailors here, $11,000, just a viable GPP option once again. In terms of their wide receivers, the only 2 guys I'm really looking at this week are going to be Hakeem Butler and Blake Jackson. Butler is a viable GPP option at $8,300. He didn't connect the best with Max Dugan last week, but still got the touchdown. He did not practice on Wednesday due to an illness. And then Blake Jackson's the other viable option. He's been playing a lot more as of late and playing pretty well. So $3,600 for a viable paydown option definitely does make a lot of sense. Ja'Cour Pearson was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a hip injury. So we keep an eye on him this week just to see if he plays or not. Denzel Mims was cut this week, and then they did bring back Sam Huigalis to replace him, who was with the team earlier on this season. Then we move down to that Battlehawks defense, viable GPP option. They are going against the Memphis Showboats. The Showboats been a little bit better on offense as of late, but they still have their struggles here and there and have been known to be a little bit turnover prone so far this season. But with that being said, that is my UFL DFS sheet for week number 7. As always, if you have any questions related to UFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, I will be posting all the inactives down in the comment section of this video. And then as the injury reports come out, everything else like that, this sheet will be updated on my Patreon page. So definitely feel free to check it out over there. Very small monthly donation. You get access to that, my MLB DFS notes, and some other additional content here and there as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. We got my UFL DFS video coming out once a week. Typically, it's been coming out on Wednesdays. Obviously, this week it is going to be coming out on Thursday, which is today. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in UFL DFS for week number 7.